Welcome to class today. And before we go to our topic, I'll have a question, which is, can we do without crude oil? Can we do without crude oil? You know, previously in our classes, if you have been following us, we, under the fossil fuel, we said that they are divided into three, which is under the fossil fuel, you have your crude oil, you have your coal, and we have our natural gases. And so we are looking at, can we do without crude oil? Can we do without it? So in this class, you're going to find out if we can actually do without crude oil. And if we cannot, you're going to find out the reason, the importance why we can do without them. That leads us to our class today, which is crude oil and petrochemicals. That's our topic today, crude oil and petrochemicals. So at the end of today's class, you should be able to define crude oil and petrochemicals, understand the formation and extraction of crude oil, and also identify various uses of crude oil and petrochemicals. Of course, under this last part, that is when we are going to determine if we can actually do without crude oil, if we can do without petrochemicals. So what are crude oils and petrochemicals? Crude oil and petrochemicals, first, before I go to the definition, they play a significant role in our daily lives. They play a significant role. That means they play an important role in our day-to-day activities as human. So this is almost giving us a clue that perhaps you can do without crude oil, but you're going to find out as we continue in this lesson. So as I told you earlier, crude oil is a derivative of fossil fuel. We learned it in our previous class. Please, if you haven't gone through that class, go right now and check for fossil fuel. Check for that class and listen to it so that you understand where we are coming from, the basis of this topic. So crude oil is a derivative, just as we have coal and also natural gas as a derivative of fossil fuel. Crude oil also is a derivative of fossil fuel, and it has immense energy potential and serve as a valuable resource to human. It's a valuable resource to us, and it has high energy potential. And what are petrochemicals on the other hand? They are derivative of crude oils. That means they are derived from crude oil. Just the way crude oil is derived from fossil fuel, our petrochemicals are derived from crude oil, and they are used as raw materials in the productions of various products. You're going to find out the various products in the course of a lesson. So I hope you understand crude oil and petrochemicals. Crude oil is a derivative of fossil fuel, while petrochemicals is they are derivatives of crude oil. Crude oil is a valuable fossil fuel that is formed over millions of years from the remains of ancient marine organisms. So ancient marine organisms, that is marine organisms that have died over a long period of time and they have settled under the seabed, under the sea, under the oceans, and they have been there. They are being worked on by pressure and heat, and thereby you can also get your fossil fuel. From it you can extract your crude oil. It is found deep within the earth crust and is extracted through various methods. It is usually measured in barrels, just as we have. This is the unit for measuring crude oil, barrel. Or we have some units in centimeter, meter, and the rest. But for crude oil, the unit for measurement is barrels. It is measured in barrels. So we want to explore the formation of crude oil and the processes involved in its extraction. So how is crude oil formed? One, and what are the processes involved in its extraction? So let's look at the formation of crude oil. Crude oil is primarily formed from the organic matter of microscopic plants and animals that lived in ancient oceans millions of years ago. I've already said this earlier in today's class that they are formed from ancient organisms. Now they are organic matter of microscopic plants. That means you can only view these plants and animals using your microscope, and they have lived, these animals and these plants, they have lived in the ocean in ancient times, over millions of years ago, and now they are dead and they have been decayed, and the pressure and heat has worked on them. When these organisms died, they remained settled at the bottom of the ocean and were covered with layers of sediment. Over time, heat and pressure transformed these organic matters into hydrocarbons. We are talking about hydrocarbons, that is, they contain, but they are converted into an element that contains both hydrogen and carbon, so into hydrocarbons, which are the main component of crude oil. You might also have in the process some other elements that are joined to it, but the major element there is the hydrocarbons. So let's look at we have looked at the formation. Let's look at the exploration and extraction. How do we exploit these sediments? How do we extract them? So we have different processes which we're going to be looking at very quickly. The A part is geological survey. So it's not just that anyone just wakes up one morning and just enter into one ocean and begin to know. Geologists, they study rock formations. Do not forget I told you that these organisms, they settle into sediment. They are covered by sediment. So you can, geologists that study rock formations and use seismic imaging techniques to identify potential areas where crude oil may be present. So it is the work of geologists, the ones that study rock formation, that they will go under the ocean or go to the ocean and look for where this crude oil are present, potential areas where this can be found, and they analyze the geological structures and rock types that are conducive to oil formation. So these geologists also analyze the geological structures and rock types that are conducive for oil formation. And after the geological survey, we move to drilling. So once a potential oil reservoir is identified, once they can identify a particular place that has oil, that has crude oil, once that oil reservoir is identified, the next thing is to drill. So the drilling operation begins. Oil wells are drilled vertically or horizontally into the earth crust to reach the oil-bearing rock layer. So you can either drill it vertically or horizontally to reach to the earth crust, to reach the oil-bearing rock layers. So offshore drilling platforms are used when oil deposits are located beneath the ocean floor. So what are the extraction methods? There are two primary methods for extracting crude oil: the primary extraction and the secondary extraction. Very quickly, we look at the primary extraction. In this method, the pressure within the reservoir forces the oil to rise naturally to the surface. That means you don't have to add an extra force to it. The pressure within the reservoir itself forces the oil to rise, to come out to the surface. So this is known as primary recovery. However, this method can only recover a small portion of the total oil present in the reservoir. So though this is a natural process, it will not give us what we want. So we now move to secondary extraction. In this secondary extraction, the natural pressure declines. So additional methods are employed to extract more oil. Do not forget that in the primary extraction, you are not going to get the oil that we need. The oil needed, we're not going to get the amount in there. So you're going to have to add an extra force to extract more oil. You're going to employ extra force to extract more oil. And this is what we do under secondary extraction. This method includes injecting water, that is pumping water through, or steam or gas into the reservoir to push the oil towards the production well. This process is known as secondary recovery. So under the extraction, we have two types. The primary, and under the primary, the oil comes out naturally. It comes out, but under secondary extraction, you have to inject either water or steam or gas to push the oil from the reservoir to the production, towards the production well. So after the drilling and the extraction, what to do next is refine. We are going to refine this crude oil. So once crude oil is extracted, it undergoes a refining process to separate it into various components. So crude oil has various components, and so the refining process helps to separate it into their various components. The refining process involves heating the crude oil in a refinery, where it is separated into different fractions based on their boiling point. So crude oil are separated based on their boiling points using different fractions. These fractions include gasoline. That is the fractions you're going to get in when you are refining. You're going to have your gas, you're going to have diesel, the kerosene, and other petrochemical feed stocks. After refining this crude oil, you have to transport them. They have to be transported. That is transportation. That is the next one. Crude oil is transported from the extraction site to refineries through pipelines, tankers, or trucks. So there are three major ways through which you can transport your crude oil that has been extracted from the extraction site to the refineries. That you go through pipelines, or they take it through tankers, or you take it through trucks. It undergoes rigorous safety measures to prevent spills and accidents during transportation. So what are the uses of crude oil and petrochemicals? What are the uses? Do not forget that our induction question was, can we do without crude oil? So under this, we're going to, when we're looking at the uses, the importance of crude oil and petrochemicals, you're going to deduce if we can actually do without them or we cannot do without them. Crude oil serves as a valuable resource due to its wide range of application. It has wide range of application and usage. It is not only used as a source of energy, though it is immensely used as, but they also serve as a raw material for the production of petrochemicals. Once again, I'm going to remind us, I told us that crude oil is a derivative of fossil fuel, while petrochemicals are derivatives of what? Crude oil. So they are derived from crude oil. So they serve all this beyond the energy source. It's not just for the energy source, it also serves as a raw material for the production of petrochemicals. So let's look at the various uses of crude oil and petrochemicals in details. Number one is in transportation fuels, like we have in gasoline, also known as petrol. Our vehicles use petrol. The truck, our vehicles use it is one of the most commonly used fuels for automobiles. So most automobiles use petrol. When we're talking about automobile, we're talking about the bus, we're talking about vehicle, the taxis, the cars, talking about motorcycle. All these, they use petrol. That is the source of energy for moving. It is through petrol. So it is derived from crude oil through refining processes and powers internal combustion engines. The next is diesel. Diesel fuel is another important transportation fuel that is used in diesel engines. So we are not only talking about petrol and air. Another thing we get from crude oil is diesel. So it is used in it is also used is another important transportation fuel that is used in diesel engine, including trucks. All these big trucks you see on the road, they use diesel. Buses, some buses use diesels, and even the trains, they use diesel. It provides a higher energy density than gasoline, than petrol. That's what we mean by that gasoline. Then We also have jet fuel. Do not forget we are still under transportation fuel. We have looked at gasoline. We have looked at diesel. Now jet fuel. Jet fuel, also called aviation turbine fuel, that is ATF, is specially formulated for jet engines used in aircraft. It allows planes to travel long distances efficiently. So plane does not use petrol, that is, doesn't use gasoline, doesn't use diesel. They use ATF, that is aviation turbine fuel, and this is also gotten from crude oil. Another advantage of crude oil is found in plastics and polymers. In plastic and polymers, if you've checked our various videos, when we talked about the resources we got from living things, and we talked about trees, under it we talked about rubber, and we said some of these rubber, they are also being supplemented using the synthetic production of this. So you can see that crude oil also plays a very important role, and an important role in this. So in plastic and polymers, petrochemicals derived from crude oil play a significant role in the production of plastic and polymers. So we are going to look at the wide range of applications and uses, that things that we can produce using petroleum, using crude oil, I mean to say. Number one is packaging materials, that is bottles, plastic bags and films, plastic bottles. So these are also gotten from, they are derivative of petrochemicals. Also construction materials like our pipes and insulation, they're also gotten from petrochemicals. They're derivatives of petrochemical. Consumer goods like toys and electronics also are gotten from petrochemicals, and all these are plastic. They are plastic. So all these plastic and polymers are gotten from petrochemical. We also have medical supplies like disposable syringes and gloves. You might have seen especially gloves around, disposable ones. They're also made from plastic, and those plastic are derivatives of crude oil. Even automotive parts like the dashboards, the bumpers of our cars, or of the vehicle you see, they're also made from plastic, and plastics are derivatives of petrochemicals, while petrochemicals are derivatives of crude oil. So number 3 is synthetic fibers. Synthetic fibers. Crude oil is a crucial raw material for the production of synthetic fibers, which are used in textile industry. Examples include the polyesters, widely used in clothing and upholstery and carpets. So most time you might have seen raincoats. Raincoat is somehow, it is like plastic, like rubber. Yes, it's like nylon. Some comes in that some comes like that in nylon form. Some comes like rubber. So all these also are made from what? From crude oil. They are derivatives of crude oil. We also have a nylon, known for its strength and durability, used in fabrics, ropes, and stockings. Also acrylic, used as a wool substitute in sweaters, blankets, and outdoor apparel. So you can see that our crude oil is very essential, and we can almost not do without them. It has answered the question that we asked. So we can almost not do without crude oil. In acrylic, you can see that you can use it as a substitute for wool. Instead of using your wool to knit your sweaters, you can use acrylic. Instead of using your wool to knit blankets, to make your blanket or outdoor apparel, you can use acrylic to make them. And this acrylic is a derivative of synthetic fibers, and synthetic fibers are derivative of crude oils. Number 4, we have lubricants and greases. In lubricants and greases, crude oil is refined to produce lubricating oils and greases that reduce friction between moving parts. These products are used in engines, in machinery, and various industrial applications to prevent wear and ensure smooth operation. So our lubricants and greases for our machineries are gotten also from crude oil. They are all derivatives. They are derived from crude oil, and this helps to reduce friction between moving parts, like the boris, they apply grease to it. It's used to reduce the friction between those moving parts. Number 5 is fertilizers. I know you'll be surprised to know that you can also get your fertilizers from crude oil. So crude oil is processed into petrochemicals that form the basis of nitrogen fertilizers such as ammonia and urea. So these fertilizers are essential for agricultural practices. Of course, you should know by now that we have organic and inorganic fertilizers, and in this case, this fall under inorganic fertilizers. So, and fertilizers is an essential part of if you must have your plants grow well and give you maximum production, you might have to, especially in lands that are barren or in lands that are not fertile, you have to apply your fertilizer, because when you apply your fertilizer, it promotes plant growth and also improve crop yield. So it is also, you can see that crude oil can also be used in the production of fertilizers. Also, we also have them in cosmetic and personal care products. So it's not only for a source of energy, not just only in the production of synthetic fibers or in the production of nylon and the rest. We can also see them in cosmetic and personal care products. So petrochemicals derived from crude oil are used in the production of numerous cosmetic and personal care items. You're going to be surprised by the time we start mentioning some of these cosmetics and some of these personal care products, what we use day to day, and you don't even know the source. These are all coming from, most of them are coming from crude oil. So let's look at one of them, in lotions and creams. Some of our lotions and creams, there are derivatives of crude oil. So they are derivatives of petrochemicals, and those petrochemicals are gotten from crude oil. So also your shampoos and conditioners, you just carry shampoo and you put it on your hair, you wash your hair, and the rest is a derivative of your crude oil. Also conditioners for conditioning your hair, makeup products like your lipstick and your mascara and the rest, they are also derivatives of crude oil. Your perfumes and fragrance, you spray them on your body to look nice, to smell nice. These are all, some of them are derivatives of crude oil. So we can almost see that crude oil is very essential and we can almost not do without them. It has answered our induction question, which is, can we do without crude oil? Can we actually do it with all the various usage that we have seen? Can we actually do without them? So it's almost impossible. Next is in pharmaceuticals. So it's not just only in our cosmetic and chemical, we also have them in pharmaceutical. In the production of some capsule, in the manufacture of some medicines, we use them capsule, ointments, and other healthcare products. Crude oil finds its usefulness, its application also in them. We also have other uses. So it's vast. Crude oil and petrochemicals find application in many other areas, such as in asphalt for road construction, in inks, the one you use in your pen to write in the school, dyes, the one you use to dye your clothes or to make your adire, maybe in the cloth industry, and you just add your colors and you fold them and you put it, and before you know it gives you a pattern. So your dyes are also they can also be gotten from crude oil. And pigments, we're talking about pigments. For example, in the paint industry, we have some pigments that we use to bring out the colors, the various colors you want in your paint. So they can also be gotten from crude oil. Synthetic rubber for tires. So we are not just getting our tires only from the rubber that you harvest from the tree. You can also make them from crude oil. Also in detergents and in cleaning agents. In our detergent, the ones we use at home for the washing of our clothes, for doing our dishes, and other cleaning agents, you can also get them from your crude oil. So crude oil has a vast usage. It has vast application, ranging from a source of energy to a cosmetic and daily care and what we use for our health, to pharmaceutical, to rubber, and to a lubricating oil, and to a lot of things. That's its usage in that. So you can see that actually we cannot do without crude oil. So very quickly, we're going to look at our questions using the ExamGuide app. We're going to attempt some questions using the ExamGuide app. So do not forget our subject once again is basic science. So you click on basic science, and I'm going to be clicking on random. I'm not picking a specific here. Then you click on the subject, which is crude oil and petrochemicals. So we have some question here. We're going to attempt some. Then after this class, you will have to go back on your own, then try to attempt everything. That is how you're going to know if you actually understood what you have been taught, and if when you have it in your exam, if you can answer them. So we're going to attempt some of the questions. We have a question here. It says crude oil is measured in, I could remember that in the introduction I said this. I said we have some units in centimeter, we have some units that are, some items that are measured in centimeter, some measured in meter. So we're going to look at the options we have here. A, Newton; B, watt; C, barrel; D, joule; and E, kilogram. So our crude oil is measured in what? Is it Newton? Is it watt? Is it barrel? Is it in joule or kilogram? So the right answer is C. Crude oil is measured in barrel. It is not measured in Newton. It is not measured in watt. It is not measured in joule. Neither is it measured in kilogram. Okay, we have another question. It said the liquid form of unrefined petroleum is called dash. The liquid form of unrefined petroleum is called unrefined. You know, when you're reading some question, you have to take your time and understand the question. The liquid form of unrefined petroleum is called dash. A, we have naphtha; B, we have lubricating oil; C, we have ethane; D, we have petrochemical; and E, we have crude oil. So what is the right answer? The unrefined form, liquid form of petroleum is crude oil. That is the right answer. It is crude oil. That is why we take you through the refining process. It has to, after the extraction, you take it for what? Refining, to be able to get. And some of these things that are measured there are all derivatives of crude oil. When you talk about your ethane, your lubricating oil, your naphtha, and the petrochemicals. And of course, as I said earlier, petrochemicals are derivatives of crude oil. So subsequently, you have to go through other questions and check out if you can attempt them. So we have come to the end of the class, but very quickly I'll do a recap. We have looked at crude oil and petrochemicals. Crude oil and petrochemicals. And I told us that crude oil is a derivative of fossil fuel, and also our petrochemicals, there are derivatives of crude oil. And we've looked at the extraction, the exploration, how you get them, where they are gotten from, the formation, the extraction, the exploration, and also the extraction. We have also looked at their usage and applications. Thank you for participating in today's class. You can practice more questions using the ExamGuide app. The app scores and gives detailed explanations of all the questions at the end of your practice test. You can also learn a particular topic of interest with different modes like study modes, mock modes, and practice modes. It has other features that make learning fun. It is a must for all serious students. Download from www.examguide.com if you don't have it yet. See you in the next class. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell, and share the video with others that will benefit from it. Bye for now.